Be sure to subscribe and click on the bell for notifications on future uploads. Hello everyone, Bard here, or you can call me Sully. Well, we've passed the month of June now, and I figured it's time that I go over the movies that I saw in theaters this past month. And of course, only in theaters. And this time, it's going to be 5 now instead of the 6th from May, but let's get right to it. Now once again, I won't be going into the stories of these films because, quite frankly, it would technically be spoiling it. So I'll just go over my overall thoughts on the film. Beginning with the most recent film from David Cronenberg, who've also directed, well, these films. And it's certainly an original sci-fi mystery horror drama that has came out in recent years, which is weird to say the least. Crimes of the Future. Director David Cronenberg has made a sci-fi drama that felt more like an art film than a fully structured narrative, with okay characters, a story that feels messy, and alright effects. While there is a plot to it involving 2 performance artists asked to do an autopsy on a dead boy, and one of the artists has new organs grown and removed for performances, the future the characters live in is nearly vague, from the machines being used to the crimes being committed. 1 or 2 are fine for me to fully get, but others didn't quite hit me. Yet, for the most part, I nearly got bored by it, and despite some of it being okay, and Cronenberg's use of body horror has some meaning to it, the whole film felt like nothing. 2.5 mixed stars. However, this next film is quite a big one. It is a finale to an epic franchise that began all the way in 1993, and in my opinion, it is quite mixed, but I still do enjoy it. And this one is called Jurassic World Dominion. Director Colin Trevorrow has done a very nice job of concluding the Jurassic Park/Jurassic World franchise with nice characters, a fine story, and well done effects. While I am mixed on the whole franchise, with the first 2 films being my favorites, the 3rd film not quite as much, the 4th being okay, and the 5th being a bit better than the last, this 6th entry, while not as grand as the original or as good as the 2nd film, is better than Fallen Kingdom. The film not only presents more and different dinosaurs, but also brings back Sam Neill as Alan Grant, Laura Dern as Ellie Sattler, and Jeff Goldblum as Ian Malcolm, in bigger roles than just cameos. Easter eggs and nods to previous entries, and even being a combination of themes and story elements from the other films. There's also some nice bits of humor, decent action, and having a sweet and neat finale. Aside from certain story and character bits that are much for me to take in, I have no problem following everything else, and I might see it again soon. And as for ranking these films in order, it would be Jurassic Park 3 at 6, Jurassic World at 5, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom at 4, Jurassic World Dominion at 3, The Lost World Jurassic Park at 2, and Jurassic Park at 1. 2.5 plus stars. And now we come to a film from Pixar Animation Studios, and finally back in theaters. Oh, this is so great. And it's a spin-off of one of the toys from Toy Story, which is not so great, but is fine enough. And it is simply titled Lightyear. Director Angus MacLane has done an okay job of making a Toy Story spin-off movie based on the Buzz Lightyear toy with alright characters, a fine yet troubling story, and good animation. But the reason why I say the story is fine yet troubling is that the film has a decent way of going and all, if not most of Buzz's lines from the first Toy Story movie are present, as well as the origins of his gadgets. However, it has a very weak connection to the Toy Story movies, and one of, if not its major twist involving the villain Zurg, which I won't give away, is what kind of ruined the film for me, as it makes little sense when compared to the Toy Story films. but in serving as a spin-off to the films without any kind of connection to it, it's alright. Plus, the action is decent enough, the comedy is nice, and its one controversial kiss is handled fine, yet I could have had it happen a little earlier on. So overall, it's an okay Pixar film if you just look at it as its own thing. And yet, best of all, it's really great to see a Pixar film back in the theaters, and I hope there will be more to come. 2.5+ stars. This next film is from the director of Moulin Rouge, The Great Gatsby, and William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, which is a biopic of Elvis Presley, which is quite neat. And it is simply titled Elvis. Director Baz Luhrmann has made a fine biopic of Elvis Presley, along with the untold story of his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, with decent characters, an alright story, and nice effects when needed. While it may be jarring within the first 10 minutes, with its quick edits and back-and-forth timeline, the film does keep a consistent style of editing and mood similar to Luhrmann's other films like Moulin Rouge and The Great Gatsby as it moves along, as well as playing some of Elvis's greatest hits. Though it doesn't quite reach the epic or grandness as Moulin Rouge, it's better than what The Great Gatsby offered. It's crazy in its style and almost embraces every word, but I quite like the passion it has, up until its graceful, yet anticlimactic ending. As such, it's an interesting and alright film that some may see as a style over substance film, yet it does a decent enough job of telling its story of rebellion and fame from an untold perspective. 2.5+ stars. And the last film I'll take a look at is a horror film from Blumhouse Productions and the director of Doctor Strange. Which doesn't sound that strange, no pun intended. The Black Phone. Director Scott Derrickson has made a fine horror film with fine characters, a fine story, and fine effects when needed. Though it's based on the 2004 short story of the same name by Joe Hill, and takes place in late 1978, it doesn't help that the main plot doesn't get going until like a half hour in, and setting up the characters is understandable, but overstayed its welcome a little bit. Even with some of its moments of bullying and abuse, despite making a strong point for the main boy's character. Yet, there are a few bloody and interesting moments which involve supernatural elements and kids swearing, not to mention some unique editing to evoke the time the film is set in. But I didn't find myself scared by it or found anything scary in it. As such, it's again a fine horror film with neat and okay substance, but takes a while to get going. 2.5 mixed stars. And that is it. So thank you for joining me. Like, comment, subscribe, follow on Facebook or Twitter, support me on Patreon, and tune you next time for a new video.